So I got vaccinated on June 4th, 2021. My last memory of that day was sitting there in the Walgreens, and I woke up on, I believe, Wednesday night, excuse me, the following week. And I think they shocked me three or four times before they actually got me in the wagon. And every time they'd bring me back, I'd be fine for a moment, and then I would just crash again. Multiple cardiac arrests later. I actually have a lot of nerve damage in my right leg from where they did the ECMO cut down.
Welcome to the React 19 podcast, where we bring awareness and support to the COVID-19 vaccine injured and discuss the science, research, and laws that affect all of us. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Ann Forty with the React 19 podcast, and today my guest is Sean Ryan, and Sean has quite a story. After taking his second Moderna shot, he experienced 20 cardiac arrests in about 18 hours. And so he is here to tell us all about it and how he's been living through all of that. So Sean, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Well, let's just start at the beginning. What prompted you to get the COVID vaccine?
Obviously the messaging at the time for the COVID vaccines was, if you take the vaccine, you won't catch COVID. My wife was 3 months pregnant at the time, and this is back in 2021. My wife was 3 months pregnant at the time, and we had kind of decided that she was going to hold off on it. Neither of us were at all, anti-vax or pro-vax or anything. We really didn't care one way or the other. She was working from home, and I was working from work, still in office, full time. So my thought process was, if I went and got vaccinated, one, I wouldn't bring it home, and two, she would kind of feel a little more comfortable with me being in and out of the office every day. And I really just thought that the worst that would happen was I'd have a couple of bad days, and the vaccine works, it doesn't work, who knows, but at least mentally we would have that kind of blanket coverage. So I got vaccinated on June 4th, 2021. And my last memory of that day was sitting there in the Walgreens, walking around with all the other folks who had gotten vaccinated there, waiting for our 15-minute window to be all wrapped up. And I woke up on, I believe, Wednesday night, the following week, after being in the cardiac ICU at Swedish since Monday morning.
Wait, was this after your second?
Tuesday morning.
Was this
Yeah,
after
this was my second shot.
Okay, so after your second shot, did you have any reaction after the first one?
No.
No. Okay, so
I didn't even feel crummy. I just,
okay,
went back to work.
So obviously it just makes sense. You go back for your second. So did you pass out right there in Walgreens, or what happened?
No. So, and this is third hand or second hand, I guess. I went home the next day. My wife told me this is all secondhand to me.
Because you don't remember any of it.
No, I lost Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and then most of Wednesday. I think I woke up late Wednesday night.
Wow.
So Saturday, most of the day, I was feeling pretty crummy. I think I laid around on the couch all day. I was just feeling like flu-like symptoms. Sunday, I went and hung out with a few friends. We got lunch. I didn't tell anybody else I had been vaccinated. I think the only people I told is my wife and my parents. So Sunday, not feeling great. Monday morning, I went to work as usual. I ran a safety meeting for our guys in the shop. And then around 10 o'clock, my stomach was not feeling great. A very good friend of mine who I work for, um, apparently I was complaining to him that I wanted to go to lunch early, that I was gonna, see if lunch made me feel any better, and then if not, then I was just gonna go home for the day. Um, and so I tried actually to leave early. I tried to get in my truck and go to lunch. And he said, "Oh no, we got to go look at something." And man, thank goodness he did. Uh, so we walked across the parking lot at work to go look at a project that had been going on for a while. And about halfway across the parking lot, I just clicked out, collapsed in full cardiac arrest. And luckily, he began doing CPR. My foreman ran over. He helped do compressions and rescue breaths. And then a local police officer showed up, and she kind of joined in the mix, and the three of them did buddy breaths until the actual ambulance showed up. At that point, I think a fire marshal had come by, and the ambulance had a defibrillator, and so they began shocking me back. Um, and I think they shocked me 3 or 4 times before they actually got me in the wagon and got to Everett, Providence, Everett in Everett, Washington. Um, I got to Providence, Everett, and I just kept crashing. By this point, my parents had been alerted, my wife had been alerted, so everyone kind of showed up at the hospital. Um, and every time they'd bring me back, I'd be fine for a moment, and then I would just crash again. And so multiple cardiac arrests later, the call was made to put me on ECMO down at Swedish in Seattle, because Everett didn't have an ECMO machine. So they loaded me up, brought me down to Swedish, where I kept crashing. I actually have a lot of nerve damage in my right leg from where they did the ECMO cut down, because apparently I crashed halfway through the cut down, and they had to have someone climb up and start doing CPR while they're performing the actual cut down for the bypass. Um, and then I was on ECMO and sedated for a couple days. Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon, maybe I started breathing on my own. And then they tried to bring me out Wednesday afternoon, and then successfully brought me out on Wednesday night. And from there, I have a few kind of bits and pieces. And then Wednesday or Thursday morning, I was actually fully conscious, and I began, I was fine according to them. I had a heart balloon implanted. They pulled that out. They pulled out the swan, every, tube that they had in me. And then Friday they did an MRI, and they had actually gotten me into a MRI machine when I first got there, and they found signs of inflammation of my heart. And so during this time, they had done a lot of tests, mostly to kind of figure out what was going on. So I think initially they thought that maybe I was a secret heroin addict. So they ran a full tox panel. Everything came back negative: no drugs, no alcohol, nothing to show that. So then, okay, well, maybe he's, secretly somehow contracted HIV, and he's, maybe that's what caused it. Nothing there. They did some structural scans of my heart, and there was no structural damage or structural issues that were just undiagnosed. And they really didn't have any idea. And Thursday morning, when they were pulling tubes out in between tube pulls, I actually had one of the liaisons from the CDC come by, and he and my doctor explained to me that they think it was myocarditis caused by the vaccine.
So
And
they actually acknowledged it.
oh yeah, Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a
Um,
positive thing because so many vaccine injured,
yeah.
it just never gets, oh no, no, couldn't be that. So
No,
that is a
it's actually
positive.
listed. Yeah, it's actually listed as my cause of sudden cardiac death was
Okay.
vaccine-induced myocarditis.
Wow.
Um, so uh, the following Monday, they were preparing to discharge me, and they made a decision to implant a subcutaneous implantable cardioverter defibrillator, which is a little box about the size of an Altoids tin that sits under the skin on my side, right around here.
Okay.
Um, and they run a line basically across my chest under the skin, not through my heart, just under the skin, and then up my sternum. And uh, all that does is it detects if I go into cardiac arrest again, it would shock me back.
Wow.
Um, and I was very much against it because they showed it to me, and that thing was freaking huge. Um, and I mean, you can physically, if you touch my side, it feels like I'm wearing like someone taped an Altoids tin to my side.
Wow.
Um, so uh, by that point, they felt the danger had passed. Um, they had me on a lot of drugs that they were slowly starting to taper me off of everything over the next month and a half or so. Um, and at this point, the inflammation was gone. They did MRIs, they did a PET scan, everything was copacetic, nothing out of the ordinary. Um, in September, on September right around September 1st, I started feeling a lot of uh, premature ventricular complexes, which I didn't know what those were at the time. They're called PVCs.
Okay.
And essentially what it is if your heartbeat is like a clapping, right? If this is
Okay.
your heartbeat, it would feel like this. And I felt those
Okay.
probably, I started feeling them pretty infrequently, probably once every, you know, 20 minutes or so. And by September 2nd, um, they were coming probably, I was having 10 to 15 a minute,
Oh my gosh.
which is very high. And so I emailed my doctor and just said, hey, I'm feeling this. What do you think it is? And um, he's like, well, it could be this, it could be that, it could be a number of things, but you're probably fine.
Oh,
The next morning, I was sitting in a meeting at work, and I clocked out again and died at my desk.
what
Uh,
you,
and then
it happened again?
yeah, yeah. So
I mean, you just
one
said that
arrest.
so nonchalantly. Oh, I died again. I mean,
Well, yeah. So I didn't really know what was happening. I just felt like I was falling asleep. I got very, very tired very quickly, and then just was out. Um,
wow.
and my ICD fired, so I got to ride the lightning again, and woke up. And my buddy, again, the guy, actually, the same guy who had given me CPR, was standing
Wow.
over me. I was still sitting in my chair, and he was like, "Hey, man, we're taking you to the hospital." They took me to the hospital. By that point, I had stabilized. I was experiencing a few PVCs, but I wasn't in VT. Uh, and when they took me to Swedish again, just as a precaution for observation. And so they, at Swedish, everything looked fine. I was normal. And then about maybe an hour and a half after I was admitted, I crashed again, uh,
How
rode
does,
lightning again.
I mean, to just be, oh,
Um,
you're fine to
it's pretty sudden. It's a very rapid
crazy.
thing. Um, and so they put me on a drug called amiodarone, which is a pretty potent antiarrhythmic. And so they gave me uh, a full dose of that, and then amiodarone takes about a week to build up in your system, And so they put me on a bolus and then IV and then oral and then discharged me the following morning. And uh, so about a week, 7 days later, on Friday morning, I was sitting on my couch at home, and I felt myself going to VT, which is ventricular tachycardia. Um, and I told my wife that, maybe we should start heading for the hospital, which was a dumb idea in hindsight. If you ever feeling, you know, couplets or triplets of PVCs, those of anyone who knows what PVCs are, knows what those feel like. Call an ambulance. Don't don't do what I did. Um, and by the time I got to the ER, I was in full blown VT, in and out. Um, they they kind of calmed everything down at the hospital, and they held me for observation that night in a telemetry unit. And then the following morning, when they were doing a med pass, I got to watch myself go into cardiac arrest on
Oh,
the monitor. Um,
oh
and
my,
so I rested again, rode the lightning again. At this point, they figured there was something else going on and that the amiodarone wasn't working. So they took me off the amiodarone and put me on a drug called quinidine, which is, I believe, an anti-malarial and also a antiarrhythmic. It's a pretty old medication that's actually not prescribed for much of anything anymore. Um, and everything was fine for about a year, actually.
oh wow.
So after about a year without any cardiac arrests, PVC load was very low, if at all. They had me on, I can't even remember how many Holter monitors I had to wear, tests I had to go do, blood draws, the whole Megillah. Uh, so about a year after, they decided it was time to taper me off of my medications again. So everything was looking good, and I was off my meds for about 3 months, and actually I started working out again. I was as a I decided I wanted to become a first responder, so I began doing the physical and written assessments for that,
Mm.
and was passed all the physical and written assessments, and was in the process of interviewing at a few departments. Um, and on Christmas Eve, I went into VT again,
Ah,
sitting on the couch with my family. And this time
oh,
I had them call an ambulance for me. So they brought me over to the Swedish again. Everything seemed to kind of subside and calm down. And about an hour and a half later, I crashed again. Rode lightning for the, I don't know how many nth time. And so then they put me back on all my meds. And then they started running more PET scans more frequently. I think my next PET scan after December 25th. So I crashed at around 2 in the morning on Christmas Day. And then I had my first PET scan in January. Um, and they showed pretty severe active inflammation. And so they put me on a very high dose of prednisone and methotrexate, um, which they ran for about 4 or 5 months. Um, and then ran another PET scan. The inflammation was starting to subside, so they decided to taper me off of the prednisone. Um, and then ran another PET scan once I was fully done with my taper of prednisone, and still showed active inflammation. So they fired up the prednisone again, and I think I just finished my last round of prednisone. I think about 3 weeks ago at this point. So I'm still kind of in withdrawal from that. But they still have me on a pretty solid dose of methotrexate, which is designed to be a anti-inflammatory at the dosage I'm taking it at. And that brings us to today.
wow. I don't even like. through all of this, like you, your wife, your kids, parents, just like, are you kind of always just living at the edge? How, I mean, to have this happen so many times, what is that like to live with? I mean, is there any sense of peace? I mean, like, how do you get through the days, I guess?
It's a I don't know. It's a pretty unique situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very frustrating. I have a 2-year-old now, and my so um, I can't. I don't feel comfortable, going for a run with her in the stroller.
No.
And I don't feel comfortable being, alone for extended periods of time, just without any kind of backup with her, just in case something were to happen.
Right.
The anxiety took a lot to get through. I was at first really, really angry, and then uh, pretty depressed, and then I don't know, your perspective changes, and I take about I don't even know, 4 in the morning, one, so anywhere between 7 to 12 pills a day, um, at various times throughout the day. Uh, it's a lot, I mean, and the way I look at it is this: is if I die on my own, that's it. There's not really much I can do about it. And so if I check out and my ICD doesn't fire, then I really don't have anything to worry about. If I check out and my ICD does fire, then I call 911, and then I don't have anything to worry about. Um, and if nothing happens, then I got nothing to worry about. So, um, yeah, it's a unique perspective shift for
Yeah,
sure.
I would imagine for your wife, your parents. Oh, it's
Yeah, for them it's been a lot harder. They had a front row seat to it. My dad is a cardiothoracic surgeon, so this is something that he deals with on a day-to-day basis with just
wow.
random people. Um, but to see it happen to his own kid is got to be pretty rough. So my wife is definitely resilient. Um, yeah, she's if the roles were reversed, I don't think I'd be handling it nearly as well as she does. So she's pretty tough.
So did you ever enter your injuries into VAERS? And
Yeah,
did
I think
oh,
my stuff went into VAERS probably the first week I was home.
okay.
Because I
Did
had
you
I had a crushed xiphoid and a fractured sternum, so I really didn't have anything better to do than to sit around and bang away at a keyboard.
and did they follow up with you?
No, no, that was it was a thank you for reaching out email, and so
I
long, and thanks
I
for playing.
literally just want to I mean, I've heard this again and again. I'm sure if you've heard like Joel talk about Joel Walskog, the co-founder of React 19, how he had transverse myelitis and nothing, completely abandoned. Did you file a CICP claim?
Um, no, I actually didn't hear about the CICP until after the window had closed. Um, and when I called them, I was told that I was past the window, and if I wanted to, I could gather up all my documentation, um, and then do a handwritten letter to file for an appeal. Um, but you got to understand, I mean, so after the first event, um, after the first, big event, I had about 1 million just from that, just from being on ECMO. I had 1.5 million in medical bills. Um, sorry. I had about $1.5 million in medical bills. And because I had no history with any of this, it was a knockdown, drag out brawl with the insurance to actually cover any of it. The ECMO bill alone was $1 million plus. It was, I don't know, 1 point something million. And then everything else was another 500,000. And my insurance actually sent me a letter, and they said, we negotiated your ECMO bill down to $500,000, so you're on the hook for that.
Wait, you're on the
And
hook for $500,000?
yeah, and so you can pay that whenever you want. So I just laughed at him, and I was, it took another probably about 6 or 7 months before they finally settled that bill. But I mean, I was unconscious for the first, you know, couple days of this, and I was passed around to so many doctors, and I wasn't conscious for any of it, or at least consciously conscious. That I even had bills that they didn't get me the bill. So I had bills that I didn't even know. I had a $40,000 bill that was submitted to collections, because the physician group that treated me, I think it was at Providence, Everett, just couldn't get my address. And so one day I, got to work, and our office admin was like, "Hey, there was somebody on the phone calling for you." And when I answered the phone, they confirmed my name and everything, and then informed me that I owed them $40K.
Okay, I just
Which
have to
was
ask. I mean, I am so livid sitting here listening to this. Like, I'm so mad. I'm so mad that this has happened to you and so
yeah.
many others. How how have you dealt with that?
uh, so there's a lot of upside to this, right?
Okay,
Um, I
share.
didn't I didn't I made it off the pavement, right? I was extremely lucky that I didn't get in my truck and then drive into a lake. Um, you know, there have been, just in this in my dad is a cardiothoracic surgeon, so he's been a huge resource for me. He's familiar with navigating hospitals and hospital bills, and so he's really been a huge help. And um, my wife is insane. She just has been standing with me through this whole thing, which, I mean, my God, that's a testament and a half to her behalf. Um, the and also it's been, you know almost 3 years now, um, since the initial event, and I've had a lot of time to process a lot of this. I mean, obviously, it's flashbacks still happen. You wake up after having a flashback, because I think they did try and wake me up a few times at Providence Everett. And according to the physician's notes, I got very combative, and to the point where they actually had to sedate me completely, and put me all the way under. Um, so you have some flashbacks and stuff that still reoccur, and that's you take those as they come. Um, the really frustrating part is, there's a lot of people that I mean, in the 2 years since it's happened to me, I've come across 4 people now who have not made it off the pavement. Um, One guy, and this is just talking to people. Um, I think almost every vaccine injured person is aware of the crazy amount of censorship that occurs
Yeah.
in the social media space. I don't know if my Instagram is still labeled, but for a long time it's been labeled as a scam account. Um, I've been banned and unbanned and then rebanned from just about every Reddit subforum on
It's the
COVID or
same
COVID
with
vaccines.
every single
Um,
vaccine injured person. In fact, yesterday I was uploading a video of an interview that I did up on React 19 site, and YouTube went, it's like, no, you have too many strikes against you for
Yep.
sharing people's in today. I mean, this was just yesterday, less than 24 hours
Yep.
ago. It's still
Yep.
happening.
And so my story has been they've done a really good job of suppressing my story. Um, which is hard not to take personally. But again, you end up persevering, right? But I mean, I've come across people who, one of the mechanics who worked for a customer of ours, he was a younger guy. He was in his 20s, fairly healthy dude as far as I know. I actually didn't know him at all. But he got vaccinated, wasn't feeling well, went home on a Friday, and then they did a wellness check on him the following week because he never called in sick or anything. Lived by himself, and they found him dead in his apartment. There was another guy from my hometown who got vaccinated, decided he was going to go and fish it off, so he went into the woods to go fishing, and they found him dead on a railroad track. The gal who processed my FMLA paperwork, it was just a random stranger over the phone. And I told her, she was asking questions about why I was filing for emergency medical leave, and then 6 months later filing for paternity leave. Um, she was trying to make sure that I wasn't trying to scam or whatever,
Right.
the FMLA thing. And so I told her my story, and she just lost it. She apparently, her husband got vaccinated. 4 days later, wasn't feeling well. They went to sleep. She woke up and he wasn't breathing. She called the EMTs. He was DOA at the hospital. And they told her that he had that he had an asthma attack, and which was weird because apparently he didn't have asthma. Um, and so they refused to do an autopsy at the hospital. She sent his body home to his parents in California, and there they paid for an autopsy, and he had a lot of inflammation around his heart apparently. Um, so the I'm really, really lucky. And also, to be fair, people who go through cardiac arrest, I think out of hospital cardiac arrest survival rate is crazy low. I want to say it's 6% or something to that tune. And of that, it's another, 25% survive without any sort of mental capability changes. And I actually went and had a mental acuity battery done just to see. I'd never had to do a baseline mental battery before. And the gal was like, if you hadn't told me what, what had happened to you, I never would have believed it.
Mhm.
People who go through that sort of thing don't come out of it
Yeah,
being able to hold
that's
a
strong.
conversation
Right.
or complete simple tasks.
Right.
There's a lot of brain damage associated with it. So I was very, very lucky that the people that I had surrounded myself with were able to, perform effective CPR with rescue breaths,
Yeah.
which is huge. I mean, that's
So how do you keep your hope? How do you or how would you, and I don't know if you feel comfortable speaking to this or not, but how would you, what advice would you give to others who are, every day waking up to injury? I mean, they've been injured and this is their life. And so kind of how do you keep your hope, and how would you give others hope, and just knowing, like,
persistence.
you know,
Yeah, I would say persistence is key. Um, for me, it's been a second lease on life.
okay,
Um, and you also start to appreciate things differently, and you learn to prioritize what things actually matter,
right.
right? Um, hoping for some sort of recognition or any kind of um, acknowledgement, I think is kind of a, I mean, and I don't mean to be crass here, but I think it's kind of a fool's errand. Um, I don't
Sad.
I don't have any I don't have any hopes for any kind of acknowledgement. You know, there is if there ever is going to be any kind of reckoning for the um, corporations and people who inflicted this stuff upon the vaccine injured, uh, it's it's going to be a long time coming. Um, so the best thing to do is to just keep going. I mean, it's been 2 years, and you and I are only just now connecting. And I think the way that, and not to be, tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, but the way the government has been able to suppress any
Right.
and all of this information worldwide, all the governments, and is nothing short of, you know, bravo to them, because whatever they're doing is work. It's keeping people separated and isolated, and you know, the the best way to keep going is to just keep going.
Are you now functionable where you can work? And I mean, can you live a normal life? I mean, kind of be monitored 24/7, but do you work? Do you um
Yeah, so I actually never really stopped working. I took a month off after the initial events, went back to work, and I died at my desk again. So I mean, it's uh, I'm working now. I'm actually on my lunch break right now. The uh, the flip side of it is, especially with all the medications I'm on, I am dog tired all the time. I The past month I have stayed awake the entire day. I think 7 days. Um, so it's hard to fit in family, any kind of exercise, physical activity, work, and that's full time work too. I've been, you know, the best way I can say is I've been trying to live for my family, and you know
right.
keep being a provider and try and retain some semblance of myself. Um, so yeah.
Wow. Well, I thank you so much for taking the time out here. And I do want people to know that you were a rower for 8 years back in your college days. So it's like, you know what it's like to be fit and you know what, your body was conditioned for that. So I just thank you so much. And I don't know, how can people connect with you if they want to hear more about your story, if they want to reach out to you?
My Facebook and Instagram. My Instagram is my best way. I
Okay.
don't know. I think it might still be labeled as a scam account, so you can ignore that warning when you get there. I promise I won't try and sell anybody vaccines. Um, I'm I think I'm at Sean Yan on
Okay.
Instagram,
Okay.
and you can connect through me to me through that. I'm on Reddit.
Okay.
I'm pretty active on the cardiac and PVC forums,
Okay.
um, and so find me through there, or there'll probably be a link to my Instagram on React 19's website.
Okay. Yeah. And well, that I guess we never touched on that. How did you ever find React 19?
Um, I I think somebody sent me a link to one of your pages.
Okay.
Um, this is a long time ago,
Okay.
and I mean I've received a lot of crazy messages from a lot of crazy people
Okay.
on both sides.
Okay.
The amount of hate that you get from sharing your story is
Aw-
mind
Awful.
blowing on
So
both
awful.
sides. The pro vaccine, anti vaccine, whoever, you know, is just it's a trip. People are really caught up in whatever side they're on.
Right.
Um, so I don't think I really trusted much of what I had read anywhere.
Right.
And for the first year or so, I was just trying to make it through alive.
Right.
Um, so it's now that I've got a little more breathing room, I've been able to reach out a little bit better.
Well, I'll put all that information in the show notes so people can check that out. But Sean, I'd love to do a follow-up interview in like a year and just see how you're
Yeah.
doing, how the family's doing. Hopefully you'll be here and we can be able to do that. But so your so your parting words would just be
Persistence is key.
persistence and key, just getting up and doing the next right thing.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I know you got to get back to work, so thank you so much and so
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. All righty.
Yeah. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks.